Welcome to the Content Amplified podcast, brought to you by Masset. Our goal is to help you get more from your marketing content. Each episode is a 10 to 15 minute interview with industry experts that share amazing insights to help you squeeze as much juice from your content as you possibly can. Here's today's interview.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Alyssa. Alyssa, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited for the conversation today. Well, Alyssa, before we dive into the subject, let's get to know you a little bit. I always love to ask, what do you love about content and marketing? Let us get to know your background and then we can dive in today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the path that led me to content marketing. I graduated college with a degree in sociology and biology. And I've always loved that kind of mix of creative and analytical thinking. I thought briefly about going into journalism, but just didn't feel like the right fit for me. I wanted something that combined a little bit more of that kind of data and analytics side and that kind of challenging part of the science within writing. So I started as a content intern just to kind of make a little bit of money when I first got out of college. And I just loved it. And I've been doing it for about 8 years, exclusively in the B2B kind of tech world. My favorite thing about it, I guess, is creating content that communicates the value of more complicated tech products. I think there's a very special skill that content marketers have in communicating that value, specifically in B2B tech. And so, yeah, I've kind of hopped around within the tech world from various niches. So I've been in cybersecurity, I've been in fintech. Now I'm in a company that's supply chain and logistics technology. So, yeah, I've really enjoyed getting to understand the products and the different audiences and what they're looking for. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Love it. Love it. Well, again, excited to have you on the show. I have a sweet spot in my heart for B2B tech as well. That's where I've spent my career as well, and it's an exciting space. So today what we're going to really talk about is how to make your value known for your content and your business. And marketing is an interesting area. There isn't just a job description of let's market to every one of our prospects. There's this internal management of understanding what it is that marketing does, the value we're bringing, the things that we're trying to do. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that second side of things. So first of all, Alyssa, when it comes to it, why is content actually kind of hard to track in the first place?
Yeah, I was kicking myself a little bit for choosing this topic because all content marketers know that measurement is one of the hardest things about content marketing because, there's that statistic out there that says some people view 7-8 pieces of content before they make a decision. So that attribution is really hard to track. At the same time, I think that there's a couple of reasons why measurement and building a measurement framework is really important, but also really hard for content marketers. I think the very first reason is that as content marketers, we are so good at storytelling, specifically for our audiences. Our buying audience, we know from front to back, we know what channels they're on, we know what their day-to-day decisions are. And so we're good at creating really high value content for them. But we don't treat our internal audience like that. We don't treat our stakeholders like that. And by that, I mean the C-suite, our VP of marketing, whoever is kind of pulling the trigger on giving you resources and budget to execute on whatever initiatives you're trying to achieve. So I think building a measurement framework and holding yourself accountable to that and really telling that story through that measurement framework is so important for communicating your value as a content marketer. It not only kind of guides you as you're creating things. So you're not just creating things willy-nilly. But it allows you to set boundaries with other teams. And I think this is the second thing that makes it really hard to track the performance and measure content, is that depending on what kind of organization you're in, what kind of team you're in, I like to say you can be either like a service content marketer or you can be a strategy content marketer. If you're a service content marketer, it's really hard to track performance because basically you're just being asked by other teams to do things that they need that involve writing and content. So you're just being asked from, it could be from different areas of marketing. It's often from product to create whatever they might need, whether it's a one-pager or a webinar, whatever, and you're not driving that strategy. So building that framework for content measurement from kind of like the most high level down to the most tactical elements of it, it's going to give you a lot of autonomy as a content marketer, and it's going to allow you to draw those boundaries. And for me, this is the hardest lesson I've learned in my career, is just creating those boundaries and creating that framework for myself so that I can say no, because I've already created a framework for myself to do so, because saying no is not my forte. So this gives me a really easy way to kind of have that autonomy and control over the strategy behind content marketing and not being pulled in a bunch of different directions by other teams.
I love that. So it sounds like the key to measurement, in your opinion, is to outline a productive strategy, to say this is really why we're producing content. I look at strategy as the why we're doing something.
Yeah.
So this is why we're doing content marketing at all. And this is what we're trying to accomplish. So this is how we're going to measure success against that strategy. Is that kind of the framework you're talking about?
Absolutely. That's
very cool.
You
Very cool.
Understand the why. And that's such a seemingly straightforward concept, but it's sometimes hard to achieve, especially when you're working for, like I have in my career, startups who are maybe in that sort of adolescent phase of being a company and figuring out who they are. So I think it's really important to kind of lay that framework. And you can obviously adjust it, doesn't have to be rigid, but it just gives yourself a way to be accountable, not only to you, but to other people and other leaders within the company.
Very cool. I love that. So when you're looking at it, how do you go about proposing the strategy, getting approval for the strategy, getting everyone on board with the strategy, and then in turn, getting everyone to align around these are the metrics that will be telling us if we are fulfilling on that strategic vision? How do you get that buy-in?
So you have to start from the very, very, very highest level. And the highest level strategy shouldn't come from you. It should come from your brand as a whole. So you really should understand. And maybe this means when you start a new role or within the role that you're already in, meeting with the CEO or the head of marketing to understand this. But you really need to spend some time understanding who the audience is and what your brand is doing for them. And that's so straightforward, but it's such an overlooked part of the process that a lot of marketers just don't take the time to do. They start a new role and they just go out running and producing things with not really guidance on like why they're doing that. So I like to say, okay, your brand is this, and it's doing this for the lives of your audience, or it's doing this for the day-to-day job responsibilities within your audience's life. And then what objectives or business outcomes is marketing responsible for that ladder up to that brand vision? that you've already established. So, this could be anything. I think, not anything, but marketing are responsible for fall within brand growth, improving the ROI of marketing efforts. So just figure out what those are. In startups, most of the time you need to establish brand awareness. You really need to make your audience aware of what your product does and who you are. So if you're going to choose that marketing business outcome, then go with that. And then decide, okay, what are the objectives that I need to achieve that business outcome with content? So if marketing is trying to generate more leads, then you say, okay, how do I generate more leads with content? And so we're just building down this ladder. So you go from brand vision to that kind of marketing-based outcome that you're trying to achieve, to that content marketing objective that you're going to try to achieve with content. I think this is where people start a lot of the time. You go to the KPIs, you go to the form of measurement. And I think a lot of people will say, we hear the term vanity metrics a lot, where people say, we track traffic to our site, we track whatever it might be, engagement rate, whatever. And those kind of metrics, they're not unimportant, but they're unimportant without context, because you could be seeing huge traffic numbers and 75% of that is not your audience at all. So they can be misleading. So you can use those KPIs, but they really have to fit into that marketing-based outcome and objective that you already defined through content. So, if I was going to say lead gen is my business outcome I'm trying to achieve, then I want to produce more content that gets people to a product page and eventually to a demo sign up. Then my KPI would be maybe page views on product pages from social media content promotion or something. It needs to be granular and it needs to ladder up to that objective that you are trying to achieve. And then once you've established KPIs, and you can do this over and over and over again for different objectives. Once you've established KPIs, then you establish the tactics. Okay, so how am I going to do this? I'm going to put 10 more posts up a month on social media, on LinkedIn. I'm going to improve the content on my product pages in order to see 20% improvement in page views on my product pages from social media, or something like that. So that's kind of the formula that I typically follow for setting up that measurement framework.
I love that. And what I love about what you just shared is the full experience that you need to go through. I think often when we look at marketing material, we hear, well, you need to align to business objectives and goals. But I love how you broke it down to say, okay, here's where you start, here's where you go. And then this is the actual tactical element of what you're going to do. And this is how it makes the impact. And you gave the full spectrum, which I think is, like you said, that's where it lacks often, where people don't have the full context of, yes, we are posting on social media. To most people, that doesn't make a difference. But if you're saying we're posting to get traffic to the product page, which will in turn generate demo requests, which will eventually towards the revenue of the business. And I think that is really cool. So one final quick question, because these episodes go by really, really quickly. How do you communicate that internally with other stakeholders, other departments, other people in the business? What's effective methods for sharing your success, your strategy, why you're doing what you're doing, in really why you're measuring what you're measuring. How do you really align the company around that?
Yeah, I think it depends on the size of your company. I work in small companies where I have the privilege of maybe saying, hey, we just, ran this really successful campaign. It resulted in these numbers. Can I create a slide to present in our all hands? Or something like that is really going to help you put that information out to everyone. But if you don't have the privilege of doing that or the opportunity to do that, or you simply just don't want to present in front of a whole company, which I understand, just communicating via a shared channel in Slack is really impactful. Just laying out, telling that story of we were trying to do this. We had the goal of doing this to achieve that. This is how we did that. Just laying out that story in the same way that you would for your audience. Content marketers, we know how to do this. We just have narrowed it down to our people that are buying our products versus our internal stakeholders. So I think, in Slack or in email, just put it out there because we get so consumed by the work that we're doing that we forget that so much of our success depends on us communicating it to other people. So just I would really encourage a lot of people to do that because it's something I didn't do, and I was like, oh, people will just notice, they'll just know. But they don't. You have to tell them. So
yeah, I love that. I love it. Well, Alyssa, I love the framework and I love how you laid that out. I think there's a lot of value in that. And I really like how you articulated adding the context. I think that makes a really big deal. And I think that's going to be really valuable to anyone listening today. If anyone wants to pick your brain or ask more questions or connect with you online, how and where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. I pretty much live on LinkedIn. So just feel free to send me a follow request or connection request, whatever it is these days, on LinkedIn. And I love connecting with other marketers and especially content marketers so we can commiserate on our daily struggles. So
I love it. I love it. Very cool. Well, Alyssa, again, thank you for the time and the insights today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Content Amplified podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And for additional ways to get more out of your content, visit our website at getmasset.com. That's getmasset.com. And tune in next time to the Content Amplified podcast.